Before we get our meeting started today, I will lead us in the pledge of allegiance, and I'd ask our city manager, Jim Anderson, to say a prayer for us. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with us today as we do the work of this city. We ask that you be with our country, our troops, and each member of our community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I now call this meeting of the Fort St. Joseph City Commission to order. First thing we have is consent agenda on 2/5/19. Hope everyone's had a chance to look it over, and I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a motion from Commissioner Ashbrook,
Second.
second from Commissioner Lowry. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right. Next we have is the building department.
Since October 10th, we've had 40 demolition permits.
Can you say a little louder? I want to write this down today because I don't want to be leaving here without knowing.
Okay. Since October 10th, we've had 40 demolition permits, 183 residential re-roof permits, 27 commercial re-roof permits, 177 residential remodel permits, 12 commercial remodel permits, 30 power pole permits,
How many?
30,
Power pole permit?
65 electric service repairs, 8 accessory structures, which are sheds and pole barns.
What was that last one?
Accessory structure permits, 8. Sixteen temporary structure permits,
Would that be permits for RVs?
it is
Okay.
And you've only had how many?
16,
16?
that's correct.
Okay.
And 11 increased cost of compliance letters.
What is that 16 on? Is that as of a certain date?
As of October 10th,
Okay.
is the store.
That's exciting. Going up.
Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
I do not.
I think not.
Thank you.
Fort St. Joe redevelopment.
Mayor, unless Bill wants to come on speak. Okay.
Just a short update. Good afternoon.
Bill?
We are making some progress with some repairs and things downtown. We had the entrance sign at 3rd Street, 98, repaired, repainted, reinstalled. We've got some cleanup work done at the Village of Rich parking lot, Stormwater Pond, got that done. The downtown sign project is actually, the signs have been ordered now, first phase, which will be Reed Avenue, Williams, and MLK. Moving forward with that. I got some good news. Actually, the fellow just called me. I was walking in from Austin, Texas, that purchased the Masonic Lodge building, as well as the 3 buildings that have been condemned. That was the Coastal Cabin and Chamber, and I forgot the 3rd building, but we're going to be talking about the future. He's going to rebuild those. So that's very exciting news for downtown. Are there any questions about anything?
I was glad to hear that when I talked to you earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mayor, the second item on that agenda is at the last downtown redevelopment meeting, we were presented with a verbal offer from the county to allow our 30-year CRA to sunset. and not go after renewal. We asked at that meeting that our attorneys got together and put something in writing for us to look at, and we have that here in front of you today to take a look at and discuss.
Okay, we're gonna do that later or now?
It's your meeting, Mo.
We can do it now, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, let's take a look.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the draft interlocal agreement between Gulf County and the City of Port St. Joe I have previously provided to all board members. That was drafted by County Attorney Mr. Novak, presented to me, and thus I corresponded with the board to make sure they had a copy. Do y'all have a copy?
Yeah.
Is this the update with the fire services agreement?
No, it is not. Mr. Anderson brought up an issue in paragraph 4. This were to be voted in favor of. Mr. Anderson addressed the fire protection in Jones Homestead and Simmons Bayou as being problematic. Mr. Anderson has indicated to me that that would affect, possibly detrimentally affect the city. Mr. Anderson, I do not mean to speak for you, but my understanding is that being a backup service would not have the same detrimental effect. So the amended language was requested, and I addressed that with the county attorney, and the county attorney issued a statement to me saying that amending the language to reflect something more agreeable with the city would be acceptable to the county.
And after reading this too, Mr. Attorney, the language, and actually I had a conversation with former Commissioner Brissette about this today, having a set schedule of payments rather than the vagueness of the language of stipends to be annually paid thereafter. Just says January 2021 and each anniversary thereafter in 22 and 23. If we could have a set payment schedule anywhere it talks about a payout in paragraph 2, as well as paragraph 3, it shows 5 annual stipends of $40,000 beginning in 2019, which is a long year, 365 days. So if we could get a spelled out payment schedule on those as well. And in paragraph 6, it says city agrees to strictly comply with this agreement. I'd like that to say city and county. It needs to be mutual language. It should not be one-sided. It also implies that any injunctive relief or declaratory judgment would be in favor of Gulf County. We need to word that in such a way that if either party breaches the contract, it will go either way.
And those two issues were brought to my attention. I spoke to the county attorney. The county attorney has proposed to do an exhibit with payment schedule to attach to this, and the mutual language, the county attorney was in agreement, although I think we would do it as an additional paragraph, not a corresponding mutual binding agreement, but it would be an additional paragraph, not in that same paragraph.
Okay. That's all the legal language questions that I had.
So what is our next step? Gentlemen?
I'd like to, moment, it seems like we got ahead of ourselves on this. I have a few questions I'd like to have answers to. The first one is, where did this come from? It's called an interlocal agreement, and in my mind, the way you create an interlocal agreement is you bring together the parties that are going to be affected by the interlocal agreement. I was not a part of any agreement. So my first question is, who created this proposal? I'm gonna call it a proposal or a buyout. Where did it come from?
I can answer that, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like.
Go ahead.
The county, speaking with myself as the DRA chair over about the last month, this document was drawn up per our request at the last DRA meeting, and this is our chance to either buy in or out. I mean, this is where we get to participate. They made an offer, and now it's our chance to talk it out. This is where we're involved in it.
So when the actual figures were put down on paper
is this the same figures that were discussed at the last meeting when we asked to have something in writing?
Correct. Other than these ancillary benefits that the fire truck being paid for and other additional items, the dollar amount was the same, yes.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when I did the math on it, it looks to me as if it's really a 6-year buyout, because I took away the $175,000 figure because the county already owes us that, so there's no reason to have it in the offer. Then I took out the $200,000 that's in the proposal for the purchase of the fire truck, being that as of next month, we will have purchased the fire truck. So we don't need the fire truck bought, we already have it bought. So if you take those figures out, and then you run the math on roughly $184,000, and that's with no increase at all, just to do simple math. According to my figures, they're offering us, or whoever it came up with an idea, they're looking at paying us for what we would receive in, say, 6 years, and we would be foregoing the 24 years if we were able to have the 30-year extension. Is that correct? Do you agree
That is
with those
correct.
figures?
I do agree with that.
So you're doing you're, I guess, going to suggest, and I'm not sure that you support this or you just put it together, but if you did support it, you would be willing to take a payout of 6 years, and I believe it'd be $4.4 million lost if we stayed status quo and had no increase in revenue. So it's hard to predict, the
Sure.
future, but if we just stayed where we are today, we'd be giving up $4.4 million. I was just wondering if that is correct. Am I looking at the figures wrong?
Sure, and I can speak on that. Yeah, absolutely, that's correct. In fact, my boss asked me the other day that I should have an actuary look at these numbers. I said, it doesn't take a genius or an actuary to know that 8 is greater than 1.4. And so, that being said, it's more about the timing. If this offer were proposed to me October the 9th, I would have told them to go kick rocks. But right now, we have an opportunity, a one-time only deal, unless we get hit again, for these grants, these huge grants, these CDBG DR grants that provide disaster relief, long-term recovery, restoration of infrastructure, housing, and economic revitalization, only happen after a major storm event. These are non-capped grants. You can ask for as many millions of dollars as you want. The catch is there's always a match, and if we can get these at a 10% match, we need to have the money to match it with. Right now, we're sitting on, Mike's not here, but probably 250 in our BP fund that we could use for money for matching.
350, I think.
350.
Might be closer to right.
So we've also got 404 and 406 mitigation grants, that are to help improve our infrastructure to stop these from having such an effect in the future. Community disaster loans, hopefully, knock on wood, that we receive them, that'll help us out with operating expenses, but with the lack of a community disaster loan, which is a loan, we have to pay that back, we're not gonna have the money to go through this next budget cycle without going back to our rollback rate, which is gonna be about a 1 mil increase in taxes for the first time in over 25 years, or we need this loan, which is a loan. I'll say that again. The DR grants can also be used in conjunction with social services block grants. That does everything from community service block grants to job opportunities for low-income individuals, community economic development, assets for independence, low-income home energy assistance programs. I know we have a lot of people that could utilize that right now, and rural community development. These are all things that are going to happen very quickly after the legislature meets and starts opening up some of these pots of money. Again, they all require matches. I think that the need today is greater than our need is going to be in 30 years. Our town is going to organically grow. I've had the argument that downtown needs it. Downtown needs revitalization, and this goes a lot deeper. I would never say, let's take this deal and not spend some money downtown. I think that the first $250,000 of that money should go to replace the sewer and the water lines on Reed Avenue. It's the last in town that really needs to be done. The sewers are atrocious over there. We can do whatever we want with that money, and you got to look at the flip side. The county's putting in 180. We're putting in between 50 and 80 every year that the city's using. We're talking about being short. The property appraiser says about 30% reduction. That means we're gonna only take in $700,000 this next year. More realistically, it's probably closer to 15%. That's $150,000 shortfall in ad valorem tax. That $80,000 could go a long way to bridging that gap to where if we didn't get a community disaster loan to make the difference, we'd have that. It would be available to everyone in the city, not just the business community. So, I mean, that's kind of both sides. The third leg of this stool is the legislature. Last year, I don't know how many of you are aware, the legislature, the House actually passed a bill to stop creation of new CRAs. It passed the House. It did not pass the Senate, but the temperature in Tallahassee is very anti-CRA. What I'd hate to do is have us do a 30-year extension, maybe not even get to the extension period and have them go away this year or 2-3 years down the road, and then we're left with nothing. This is a gamble either way. I mean, if we take the extension, there's a risk that we might not get the money. If we don't, we have the money right now, but we don't have everything after 6 years. I just think that if you leverage that money that we're going to be receiving with grants, you could turn 1.4 million into 10.4 if you had 10% matching grants for them. That, again, I'm trying to show both sides of the coin here, but that's my thought process going through.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I did a little research on the mood of the Florida legislature. I was actually able to go on the Florida League of Cities, who is very pro-CRA. Florida League of Cities are the ones that help us as a city commission get CRAs funded. It's actually tied in with their home rule legislative group. So, and I read about what last year transpired, and if it was to come back up this year, it focuses on how do you get out of the CRA, 2/3 vote of the group that created it, and I think it's fair to say that if the legislative body of Florida was moving in the direction to speak against CRAs, it would be on a basis of stopping future CRAs, not entering into stopping the extension of existing ones. Plus, the point that you just made, we just went through a hurricane, and we have legislators right now that are trying their best to support cities like Port St. Joe. I believe that the fact that we are in a position of rebuilding helps us tremendously in gaining support of the legislators for extending our own CRA. And I know that that's just opinionated and me predicting the future, but I think it's hard to argue that where we are currently post-hurricane does not help us. I think it will help us tremendously. And I plan to speak to our local delegation. I plan to speak to the Florida League of Cities, and I think that they would be offended to find out that the actual or a part of the city commission is looking at a way to abolish or negate the extension of the CRA. The other part is, my first question was, how did this come about? And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I understand what you're saying on the numbers, but I think we should step back in time. And if we're looking at this, then we should develop it where we have a voice, where our business owners have a voice. The people that are in that area now should be a part of the creation of what may turn out to be an interlocal agreement. It's not an interlocal agreement. It's a proposal for a buyout at this time. If you do have a workshop and you spend the time that's needed to discuss the pros, the cons of this, then everybody has a voice. Just like we just spoke about, someone in Texas just bought 3 buildings and plans to revitalize. That person should have a say. Anyone that's in that district should be working on the numbers. You heard me say at the last meeting, if the county wants to talk about a buyout, I'm interested in a 20-year figure. And here before us, we have what I would call a 6-year figure. So I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves. We should workshop this, and we should have people invited. We should listen to our Chamber of Commerce family. We should listen to our business people. Right now, we've had one person, Commissioner Ashbrook, who's the chair of the Downtown Redevelopment Agency, and someone from the county come up with an idea. But I would suggest that we look at how we create this, and let's do it in a better fashion.
And I would agree with 99% of what you just said, Commissioner, and I think that regardless of what happens, if we take the interlocal or we do not, the expenditures of those monies, they're unencumbered by the state statute, but I think we should encumber ourselves to spend them only in a certain way. And that's something that I definitely think we need to workshop out. Like I said, my wishes would be to continue to support the downtown, the unblighting the downtown. See, areas are formed when an area is considered blighted, and the top 3 items that consider an area in a city blighted: stormwater runoff, water, and sewer. Those are 3 items that we haven't touched, and after talking with a couple people in the community, I know there's reasons behind that too. If there's anything on the city's capital improvement plan, you can't touch those items until they've been off the plan for 5 years. But these are items that I would insist that we address immediately before we spend $1 on anything else. That was the purpose of the CRA. That's why the CRA was formed. But we need to take care of those items. We shouldn't have gone 30 years and still had these same issues. But that said, when that first probably $250 to make that happen, everything else, I think we should definitely have an open discussion about what do we do? What do we want to do with it? I would strongly encourage that we only touch that money for matching grants. We've made $600,000 worth of UP money last for, shoot, I don't know, when did we get that, Rex?
2010.
Yeah, so I mean, we've had that money for a while, and we even have an outstanding loan that's due back to us from that. I think that it's nice to have that cushion when it's needed. But yeah, I agree with what you said. I think that the proposal is what it is. If we can get these changes made to protect ourselves, I don't think it's a bad deal, and I will say that there's precedent for a buyout. It's our gas tax. I mean, we just got $1.6 million worth of roads paved because we sold out to the county and we got $1.6 million. So this isn't a new idea to take an offer from a county and come up with an interlocal. And then on the flip side, there's the whole Windmark interlocal that did not work out so well for us. Again, trying to present every side of every coin here, and it's up to us to make a hard decision. There's going to be people in this room that are unhappy no matter what we do. One way or the other, we're going to make this half or this half upset. It's our job to decide which side is more right.
Right, as long as you give those people the opportunity to buy into the idea.
Sure.
You're correct. That you're never going to make everyone happy. But if you go into a program or a proposal and sign off something of this magnitude, and you did not give them the opportunity to speak and weigh in on the subject, then they rightly so should be upset. I just want to make sure we don't jump that step in the process. I don't feel comfortable with moving in any direction on this until we have set up meetings. We've invited those affected, because a good example is in just a few minutes of discussion during this meeting and just prior to this meeting, we've pointed out several things in this proposal that we had to change. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if we had a group of people looking at the language here, we may come out with something that's actually a good product. Right now, this has a lot of, first of all, it's not near enough money. Then second of all, we identified the issue with the possibility of a negative impact on our fire rating. So there may be a lot of other things in there too that we have to discuss, and we have to take the time to discuss those things.
I think majority of the findings were already found by city staff. Am I correct, Jim? With the fire, right?
Yes, sir, we did address the fire.
And along with option 6 or line 6. So, I mean, I don't think those items were just all of a sudden. I think you were just addressing them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I appreciate your research, because, and I mean, it is a tough call, but we do need the money right now because we need leverage, we need match. We are going to receive millions of dollars in CDBG money, no question about it. And we are going to have match. And I see match in this proposal. I do see still going down the DRA path. We're still tracking that. It's not going to be one of those deals where I've been told we're going to spend the money on 10th Street and other areas. I mean, it's the same track, the way I look at it. But we definitely are going to have some match money.
I had a quick question, probably for you, Jim. Commissioner Hoffman mentioned a reduced fire rating. What would that be? I mean, how much of a strain would it be to be the backup in those departments, in those areas?
The concern is being your primary responder, because right now your ISO rating determines what our insurance rates are.
Right.
Right now, we're working with a volunteer fire department. If you were to have to go one day, if you ever have to go to a full-time fire department, you could be looking at upwards of $1 million. So, in most cities that are having to go to that, the only way to fund that pretty much is through a fire assessment tax. So I would be cautious to say that I would want to, we don't have a problem being as a backup, and we do that now as a mutual aid agreement, but I'd be cautious about spreading out your boundaries in which your run times in which you want to respond to a fire as your primary responder.
But as a backup, that's what we do now
Yes,
currently.
mutual agreement, yes. If there's somebody in need, we definitely back up the county backs us up, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
The CRA, it's been there for 30 years or probably more, but this money that the CRA gets, it stays in one place, right, downtown, Williams Avenue. And I understand that, but I agree with what Mr. Hoffman said, but I feel like if we can get money that we can spread throughout the whole community of Port St. Joe, instead of in certain spots, I think that'll be helpful for not just downtown, but other parts of our city. And we really need to put our minds on that for us. Avenue A, Martin Luther King, other places besides downtown, which, don't get me wrong, I love what downtown looks like. I love going down and walking with my family and going to restaurants and enjoying myself. But sometimes we have to look at things and say, okay, we put money here, we put money here. We'll just put it throughout our entire community instead of just having it put in one place. And I believe when the county gives us this, if we get these grants, it can be used for those things. Am I right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what my mind frame is. Either one side or the other. It looks good downtown. It helps downtown. The economics downtown. It helps that. Williams Avenue is starting to look good. And I just feel like if we get in a situation where we have money that we can spend throughout our whole community, we can make our whole community look better.
I got just one example right now that's in our agenda currently, and it's a CDBG grant that we applied for. Mr. Ballister applied for it. I believe you might have been on the board, Commissioner Bezette, at the time, and we didn't think we'd get it. We applied for it, and there was a $50,000 match to it, and based on the emergency situation, we're going to get it, but we don't have $50,000 budgeted. So these are the kind of things that I look at, and with this interlocal that will come in handy in the very near future.
I'll say something. I've had several discussions with the county administrator, the deputy county administrator, county commissioners. I've talked to all of them at length, and I believe them. I believe what they say they'll do. I don't think the county's out to hoodoo us. We've had people on boards in the past, and that's all they thought. County's out to hoodoo us. I've heard them say it, you know. But the county's not out to hoodoo us. They're out to help us as a city, so all citizens of the town and the county can get the maximum they deserve. And I am one that always wanted to work with the county. I trust them. I work on their money. And I think if we don't work with the county, we're foolish. And that's all I have to say.
I also want to say this, Northport St. Joe has their own CRA. And me going with the county, I think that with these grants, it'll be better for Northport St. Joe not to have really that CRA if we're gonna get this type of funding. So it's not just me saying it's better for this, better for that. It's just me saying all of us at one can use this money so it benefits everybody in our community. That's the only thing that I have.
Well, Commissioner Langston, you brought up a good point. And just to clarify, this does not affect the Northport St. Joe CRA. That will remain for, I think, 24 more years-ish. And one of the exciting parts about that is this next month, we're going to be voting on a zoning change that'll increase the density over there on Martin Luther King. That is very exciting to me because in conjunction with just being hit by a hurricane, you've got investors out there looking to purchase property and expand, build housing. With this zoning change in conjunction with that particular street being part of the opportunity zones that were created in 2017, investors are going to come in. That CRA is going to increase its tax base exponentially over the next 2 to 3 years. It'll be a standalone CRA, will require a director, and so we're putting one CRA to bed. We're about to give birth to another. That's going to be starting to generate some revenue. So I'm excited about that, Commissioner, and I think that this will free up some grants to make that happen a little bit quicker.
Let me ask you one thing. You just made the statement that abolishing or not seeking the 30-year extension on our current St. Joe Reed Avenue CRA will not affect the MLK CRA.
That's correct.
I don't believe that's accurate. And the reason I don't is because currently the Reed Avenue CRA funds, I believe, $20,000 yearly to help the MLK CRA continue to move forward and prosper. So the $20,000, I don't believe is in this language, so they would lose the $20,000. And then secondly, we're currently discussing a proposal from the county, okay? A buyout to do away and not extend the cities. Now, do you think that, let's go forward 10 years, and I also believe that there's some good things coming to MLK corridor, and there's going to be new businesses opening. Now, do you think that once that CRA becomes profitable and the county is having to pay their fair share to that CRA, that they're not going to come and put pressure on this group to abolish the MLK CRA, just like we're talking about today?
I think we're talking about two different things. As far as that goes, we've got a CRA that's sunsetting, and eventually the Northport St. Joe CRA will eventually sunset in 24, 23 years. So our CRA is fixing to sunset.
But
That's
the
two different things.
reason that the county is proposing this is because the county, and I understand it coming from the county side, it costs them a lot of money. I'm really perplexed to hear it coming from the city commission side or from the downtown Reed Avenue side, the committee, Bill Kennedy's committee, that Ashbrook chairs. That one's kind of hard to figure. But as far as the support of it is, the county would not support the MLK one either if they're contributing the amount of money they're contributing to this one. So I think at some point they would be looking at probably working with the legislation, the lobbyists that are against the Florida League of Cities, and working it from that side. And that makes sense. I mean, it costs them a lot of money, so they're not going to support it. But I disagree. I think that it will have a negative impact if we move forward with this buyout proposal. In the long run of things, I think it will hurt the MLK CRA.
So we did, Commissioner Hoffman, agree for the last 3 years to put $20,000 into that other CRA. We are allowed to do that by our own rules, not statute, but our own rules. Now they're generating income. That CRA is generating its own income.
1 year, first year, they
First-
they
Right,
made
so,
a
so
little
now
money.
they're starting to, and
Yeah.
that's gonna continue to uptick. As far as I know, the Dollar General is doing well. That's been the majority of the tax base increase there. And I think you're on a good track here. I don't believe it's gonna run its full 30 years. I think the state legislature will do away with it before that. But that community over there, that street, needs a lot more help than Reed Avenue does right now. And we recognize that as a city by voting on, let's move forward with this zoning change. This is our grand scheme picture of what we want it to look like. And I do think for the next 10 or 15 years, probably in the next 3 to 5, there'll be enough money there to start doing projects, start putting benches and nice trees and all those things within their CRA. So I don't think it's the same. In our circumstance here, the county's trying to prevent us from extending. I don't think the county's going to go after us to cancel one. I think they'll let it sunset if the legislature doesn't beat them to the punch. That's my opinion on that. It's two different things.
Well, and I heard you say a few minutes ago that the CRA and the DRA, they're the same thing, was created to help blighted areas. I kept hearing that, and and it's easy to say, well, Reed Avenue's not really blighted at this point. But if you refer to the Florida League of Cities website, they give you a little information about why they are very big supporters of the CRAs, and they give a little history. And I don't think it's really doing it justice to just say it's for blighted areas. That's one of the reasons that they were created. But it's also to encourage new investment and job creations in areas that were blighted as a result of substantial growth moving away from the urban area. So let's not just focus on blighted and say, well, it's because it helps your argument to say, well, Reed Avenue's not blighted. Well, there's more to it. There's a lot more to it. It's to help businesses become productive. And when businesses become productive, they hire people. People spend more money. So let's not label it just as it's money for blighted areas.
Sure.
And there's just so much more to do. It even goes back to the history of the paper mill shutting down. That's what come to mind when I thought, well, it speaks about people moving away from our area. And I thought, well, there's probably some reasoning. And I hope someone can speak from the audience about the history of this, because I don't know the history of it, but I have a feeling it's tied directly to the paper mill shutting down. So you have to realize when businesses thrive, the community thrives. And don't get me wrong, I'm not wanting to beat you up over the idea of, well, we need the money now. Because I see the benefits of having funding now. But again, and this will be the last I say about it, is we need to go back and start over, and that's create a workshop environment or a town hall environment to hear from the people that are affected.
Sure. And I did just want to clarify, I heard something from the audience. It is not just Reed Avenue. It goes all the way from Pristine Pools to the marina. So it is a large area. And we have traditionally focused pretty hardcore on either Core Park or Reed Avenue.
Right, and another thing that Commissioner Langston had brought up, he was like, well, that money is spent in just that area. Well, it's only collected in that area. There's a lot you have to educate people about. I had to educate myself, because if you say it in the language that Commissioner Langston just used, you're thinking, well, that's not fair. But you have to also add that it's only collected in that same district.
And what I meant by that was, yeah, it's collected in that district and it's used in that district, but if we get these funds from the county, it'll be allowed for us to use it throughout the community instead of just that one square area, or that one area. That's where my point was coming. It wasn't coming saying that, yeah, and I understand, if you make your money there, you pay your taxes there, it should be spent to help those businesses, but with this, with these grants and everything that we can get from the county, I know that we can spend money in other places besides those areas. That's my point. That's the point I was making.
And just to add on that point, that same grant that I mentioned, it's a sewer rehab project for North Port St. Joe. And we couldn't use those monies in the DRA as match for a project. So, I mean, that's one of the main points I'm looking at.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that this item is tabled until we have public input and we have the time spent that is needed to actually look at the offer and maybe set up a few workshops. And I'll put that in the form of a motion to table it until those things are done.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Hoffman to table. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Motion fails for lack of a second.
And Mayor, I'd like to say one thing. We're asking to table this agreement, which I've only heard 2 speaking points on. It doesn't sound like the agreement is the issue that we need to workshop. It seems like the issue we need to workshop is how we're going to expend the monies. That's the only reason. I think that is the key point here, is what do we do with it when we receive it?
Right.
Well, it being that the motion didn't make it for a lack of a second, could we at least maybe allow people that are here now to speak on this? I mean,
I don't mind having people speak. We'll do the 3-minute rule. Man, your hand up, come on.
I'm representing myself, as well as I have been connected with
Sign
the
in for me.
redevelopment agency as well as the Chamber of Commerce. One of the reasons you don't have any other talking points at this point is because we haven't been allowed to read it. And that's the reason to workshop it, so that we can understand what y'all are talking about. Lay it out there, point by point. Because you said the reason the CRA was created was to take care of infrastructure. Have you forgotten the stormwaters that we took care of over in Core Park? Okay, the 98, all of the stormwater runoff that we had to correct from Reed Avenue to get that away from there. So it has been used for that. But as you said, if the commission puts something on their capital improvements, then they can't touch it. If they would, but working together, it can certainly happen. And the redevelopment has also used money in the past, even with those capital projects, that they can do some of the ancillary work around one of those capital projects, and they can use their money for that. So it's like, you know, if you haven't had, because I know in the city, it's the 2 alleys that have the water and the sewer. It's like the city may have to replace the water and the sewer. There's no reason why we couldn't consult redevelopment for repaving those alleys, for digging those alleys up and that sort of thing, and work together. There's a lot of things we can do, but without seeing everything that's involved in this, okay? And I'm not thinking we've got a time crunch for this Friday or something, okay? Let's take a look at it and see what's all in that proposal and just what it really will cost, okay? Because the tax base is going up. I'm sure that that building that was just sold is going to have a lot more taxes on it, okay, than it had before, okay? So all of that is increasing. And there is an absolute demand, this is from the chamber thing, for spaces downtown to be rented, okay? People are looking for office spaces. You know, and it's like, because a lot of people really don't like having an office and a trailer, and that's about what they're reduced to at this point. So, that would be that.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Come on up.
Rex was at 101 20th Street. My sole purpose coming to the meeting today was just to ask you guys to not get in a hurry. I don't know what the rush is, and have a workshop. Give everybody a chance to at least have an opportunity to read what this says. And I've heard enough comments today also of changes that you'd like to see made before you sign it. So I would hope that maintaining transparency, that you would allow that to happen without voting on something that hasn't even been, all the changes haven't been put in front of you yet. And so we don't really know if the county attorney would agree to the changes that you discussed. So I would just, I would like for you guys not get in a hurry. Let's talk about it some more. Give the citizens an opportunity to know that it's going to be the best deal for them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Come on up.
David Warner, 1601 Constitution Drive. Couple things I'd like to point out. Well, a bunch of things I'd like to point out, but I can't do it in 3 minutes. I believe that y'all are getting in a real big hurry with this thing. I don't even think you know what the net present value of these cash flows that y'all are getting presented. I think Commissioner Hoffman mentioned in the CRA meeting that he needed to see that before he could make a decision on if this thing was valuable to the citizens of the city of Port St. Joe. I think voting as a city commission, voting to tell the county not to spend money inside the city, which they're required to do by law, is foolish. I think trying to predict what the legislature is going to do. I've worked over there. I know how unpredictable they are. Trying to predict what they're going to do with CRAs in the next 30 years is fool's game. I think that is something that you just cannot predict. And I've been there, I've worked there, I know how it works. I don't understand this magic money up front that we're going to be using for matching. I think you pointed out in December of 2019, we're due $175,000 right now. That's coming, no matter what. The other $408,000 doesn't come for 2 more years. And there's 40 grand in there for a fire truck. So you can match with $40,000 on this deal. Well, on this deal you match with 175 because if you, no you can't. Because that money coming in for this CRA year. So you can't even use that $175,000 to match for money outside of the CRA. So I think that's a shell game of some kind of magic money that you think you're going to be able to use for grant money. The Restore Act, y'all are forgetting about the Restore Act money and the Triumph money. We got all those $1 billion flowing to these counties that were affected by BP. And very little's been given out. It's coming this way. If y'all will go and ask the county to approve some of your projects through the Restore Act and get some of this bucket money, and then go up there to the Triumph board and say, hey guys, we're hurting. They've already given $15 million to municipalities in the last board meeting to try to defray some of your expenses that y'all have incurred due to this hurricane. So it's coming. Y'all are like the guy that gets up in front of Shark Tank, and I know some of you love Shark Tank. Desperate because they're bankrupt and their company's going bankrupt. And they go take the cheapest deal they can just to have a chance to survive. This is not, y'all aren't bankrupt. This is a vibrant city with a huge potential future. That marina is going to be incredible. Y'all are just throwing that away. And one last thing I want to say is there's always talk about the North Port St. Joe CRA and the city CRA, downtown. With the purpose of doing that was to bring these 2 districts together. That is the point. To do what we're doing today is to separate them apart again. To tell the downtown, you guys, tough on y'all, but we're going to ride on our own. You're not going to have a director. Your director's going away with this. That's the only way it's being funded, through the downtown DRA. So you can't fund it on 10 grand, which y'all made this year. And you're not going to get to 20,000. These districts are not geographically diverse. They are neighbors. They're contiguous. One gets good, the other gets good. One gets good, the other gets good. They all rise in tide, this all ships. So y'all are crazy to do this. I can't believe you aren't even going to have a workshop on it. It's just incredible. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Where we at now, gentlemen? On the expected changes that we talked about, has the county attorney been notified of everything that we talked about today? And he has agreed that they would go along with it?
Mayor, as it pertains to paragraph 4, use of or coverage for the fire department, the city attorney has indicated that he is, the county would be acceptable, being primary backups in the Jones Homestead and Simmons Bayou areas. As it pertains to paragraph 6, the county attorney has indicated that the county would be acceptable, including binding language, saying that if the county did not comply with the terms of this agreement, the city would have a right to take seek injunctive relief. And as it pertains to a payment schedule, the county attorney has indicated that the county would be willing to agree to that, and it would be attached as an exhibit to the proposal.
So, in other words, we could accept this interlocal with those changes being made.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're saying the county could make those changes based on the opinion of the county attorney precluding a county commission meeting? Because the 5 commissioners, it's my understanding, voted to instruct county staff to create this proposal. So, in your opinion as the city attorney, are you saying that the county attorney could speak on behalf of the 5 commissioners and make changes to something that they passed? I know it wouldn't work that way with the city. That's why I'm wondering.
Commissioner Hoffman, Mr. Novak is an agent of the county. If Mr. Novak makes a representation that the county will agree to something, I have every right to accept that he's done his due diligence, and the city has every right to accept that, but Mr. Novak is here. And I would think that Mr. Novak could address that for me.
Yes, sir, please sign
Appreciate
in.
that. I'll be happy to. Good afternoon, Mayor,
Good
Commissioners, Mr. Albritton, I appreciate that. Instead of everyone speculating or common opinions as to what it is, there's 3 issues, Mayor, to address Commissioner Hoffman's question. The first provision with regards to amendment to mutual assistance and taking a secondary role and not being a primary provider. We addressed that with the administrator. The administrator said he'd present that to the commissioners, but he will recommend that next week for that amendment. The other 2 issues are legal interpretations with regards to injunctive relief or declaratory judgments. Me, as the attorney, will make the recommendation next week that it is a 2-way street. County can enforce the city's obligations, the city can enforce the county's obligations. I have no problem with that as the attorney. I'll make that recommendation. I've indicated that to the administrator. And then I think the third issue, if I understand it, was a breakdown of the payment schedule that Commissioner Ashbrook spoke to earlier. That is absolutely no problem. That is clarity as to the detailed payments and the dates and specific of what's going to be funded. So the one issue that I will have to address with the administrator. The other 2 would be my recommendations that they accept those legalese terms. And I'll happy to answer any other questions you have before I sit down.
Jeremy, the schedule, the payment schedule will be done in a form of like an amendment?
I spoke with Mr. Albritton. We'll just do an addendum as a 3rd page to that interlocal, and it will have the specific date on which the payments will be provided. And we'll draw that up, and I'll present that. I spoke to Mr. Hammond this morning. We'll present that to the county commission next Tuesday morning so they can ratify any discussion or comments that you're discussing today. Those will be introduced to the county commission for them to ratify those amendments. They voted 5-0 unanimously last week on what's in front of you all. They voted 5-0 the commissioners to present that to the city for the instructions to the staff.
I have a question for either attorney. This interlocal agreement, would this dollar amount be a bondable figure if we needed to get?
I'll let your
I have not spoken to bond counsel. We employ bond counsel to handle those matters, and I'd have to speak to bond counsel.
And again, you know, talking about going to the county commissioners and getting their okay, I've spoken with several of them, and I think they'll work with us on this project any way we want them to. That's my feeling.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
being that it seems like some of you, if not all of you, other than me, wants to move forward in talking about the specific language of this buyout proposal, we have not allowed the public to speak, as far as most of them don't even know this was going to be discussed. We have not heard from the business owners, other than a couple that knew this was coming. Would it be okay with y'all if we heard from the city staff? One, I'd like for Jim to have the opportunity to speak from the city staff side of this, and I'd like to know from the city staff, is the city of St. Joe in a financial predicament to the point that we need to do a deal like this to be able to match the funds of some of these grants? I believe we have money set aside, may not have been budgeted, but how much is just in our contingency fund?
Overall money put back to the side, contingencies are roughly $5 million.
So we got
The city
$5
has
million
about-
that we could use for matching funds. And now we're talking about a buyout of 2 million. So we'd be generating 1.2 million to try and get these funds matched, but yet we have 6 million sitting in the bank earning interest, and we'd be losing 4.4 million to take the deal. I thought it was interesting that someone else, I think it was Mr. Warner, mentioned that it was a shell game. And that's the very same way I looked at it, was describing it to someone yesterday. It's like a shell game. You shuffle the shells around, you guess where the money is, where the pot of money is. I'm willing to look at any option that helps the city financially. It helps the businesses in the entire district. And when I say district, I'm not stopping at railroad tracks. I'm moving right on over, like David pointed out. We're all in this together. I think it will hurt MLK Zone substantially. So I want to hear from our city administrator. How do you feel about what we have presented before us now?
As far as the PSJRA plan and where they're at and where they're moving forward, I would have to defer that to Mr. Bill Kennedy on that. As far as the mechanics in here, the couple of things that I did look at was the fire protection on those. That was a concern of mine because I saw it out of there, but as far as the value of this and what's been done, I think you gotta look at what's the mission of the redevelopment agency. What has been accomplished in those 30 years? What's the plan of the redevelopment agency and with your director moving forward on there? Have you accomplished all those goals and objectives? What do you foresee Port St. Joe to look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and 30 years from now? So as far as that, I don't attend those meetings. I haven't been through the plan on this. I would have to defer to him on that. But the mechanics of the money amount here, like I said, we do have roughly $5 million in the bank. That is true. And I would be concerned about the fire protection.
Jim, when was the last time we used that contingency money for anything?
We use a little bit here and there, Mayor.
When?
We use a little bit along the lines.
What year?
I'd have to go back to Mike to see what we've used it for, but.
Pretty good number of years, though, correct?
Well,
What, in the last 5?
Yes, we have used some of that money.
Contingency money?
Yes, sir, because basically what you have is your contingency money is your money, your cash carry forward. So we've had some of that with the commission. When we go through the budget cycle, each time we look at that to see how that contingency money is going to be.
Jim, is that the same pot that we're hoping will pay a balloon payment, or is that a different pot of money?
You have several different pots of money. The way your money is right now, a lot of it is in your enterprise funds. Like you have your impact fees, your water funds, those type of things. These have specifics in which they can be used for. A water fund can only be used for water funds.
So it's not an unencumbered pot of $5 million?
Not everything is encumbered. Now, you roughly have over $8 million in the bank. I'm talking about unencumbered funds,
Right.
about
Okay.
45 million.
Could we replace broken lift stations in the city limits with that money?
Portions of it could be, yes, sir.
And I guess that's my question, is why haven't we? We have broken lift stations that are just limping along. And
Yeah, why are we pulling to spend it now And when we needed it, we didn't spend it. I mean, that wouldn't make sense.
Well, in your opinion, do you foresee the city of Port St. Joe being in an urgent need for capital funds? The point was brought out by Commissioner Ashbrook that there's grants available for matching funds. In your opinion, do you feel an immediate urgent need to take this offer because we cannot match funds? Has there ever been in the last few years funds or grants that were available and we just could not afford them for something that we actually needed? And do you think in the next 18 months, because this doesn't go away for 18 more months, do you think there's foreseeable purchases that we need to apply for these grants and we won't be able to match the funds?
In previous years, like with your CDBGs, they used to have a larger match. Back years ago, the city was unable to apply for several because they were really large. The last couple of years, they've come down. I don't know what the future holds. The CDBG-DRs that everybody's applying to right now, we don't even have the rules of engagement. I don't know if it's going to be a 50% match, 0% match. I don't have the rules of engagement on these future ones. So that I do not know.
Yeah, it's like, there's a lot of questions that we don't even have the ability to answer, because to answer them, you're predicting the future, you're talking about the legislative body. I've been a registered lobbyist for a long time, probably 20 years or more. And to try and figure out what that group's going to do year to year, first of all, they're going to be replaced. The people that are sitting up here are going to be replaced eventually. I mean, that's coming. I'm going to be replaced. I know that. But that's why the system works. And that's why we have legislative faces and new legislative partners. It changes overnight. But I still think the fact that we're faced with rebuilding a city after a major hurricane has put us in better light with the legislative body. For anybody to say, oh no, it hurt us, you don't even know how the system works. So, and the reason that I asked Jim those questions was, if we are in such an urgent crisis for funding, then yeah, I understand what Commissioner Ashbrook is bringing up and proposing, but I don't see that. I don't see it now. I don't see it in the next 18 months for sure. So we should have the opportunity to negotiate. You hear me say that a lot. I've negotiated with Bruce here over things. I've negotiated with several people. This is just the first attempt to buy out the city of Port St. Joe. This is the first attempt. It doesn't even make sense at all to be talking about, well, we need to change paragraph 4. No, we need to be changing figures of numbers if we want to actually move forward with a proposal like this. I'm not concerned with the ISO rate going up. That's little money. I'm talking about, if we're going to talk terms of a proposal, then I would start talking about, instead of paying us a 6-year buyout, let's talk 20. And then you come back and forth with something that makes sense. And the other part is you include the people that are affected in that zone.
Yeah.
We're not being transparent at all.
And Commissioner, I will say, ISO rating should be at the top of your radar. That cost, I mean, it would cost all the citizens with this rebuild in excess of $1 million out of their own pockets if we don't continue to maintain that. And that would have been a deal breaker if that would have affected it. But, you know, paint yourself a hypothetical. In our master plan, it shows City Hall behind the CVS. What's to say St. Joe says, we feel bad for y'all, here's a building. Our police are operating out of a county building right now. If the offer comes to say, you know what, go ahead and build your city hall, your police department, we're giving you a $6 million grant, but it's going to require a $600,000 match. Those are things that is an actual need right now. And my question was, out of those unencumbered funds, if they could be spent on that, why haven't we been doing it? I mean, that's my only question. Why haven't we used them for those items that are necessary?
Mayor, I have one
Sure, come on up.
comment. Quick comment that kind of got me thinking a little bit. There's going to be an addendum for a payment schedule
that the county is going to be presented to the county and they're going to vote on. You haven't seen that. How do you know you're going to go for it? I mean, I would think both sides need to see that payment schedule before any votes taken. That's my only comment.
I would say to that, you know, I just gotta rely on the county to do what they say they're gonna do. And you can laugh all you want, that's true. Come on up. That's the problem now, we got too many laughter in the audience.
Mayor, just an opportunity, Jeremy Novak, County Attorney. So the discussion today was the discussion of the agreement, but I was authorized and instructed by the administrator. I've been privy to the discussions with each of the commissioners on the county level, one-on-one. And when you sit with, as you do, sit with your council and your staff, you have one-on-one conversations. Each commissioner that I represent have their individual opinions and comments and interpretation of this particular issue. I asked the administrator, asked the commissioners, I've had permission to come and at least hear the discussion, answer any questions with regards to the legal interpretation of that agreement. The administrator also gave the opportunity to come up and speak as to what you had indicated on a much larger level. And I know right now we're talking about the DRA. The individual discussions, and we're looking at the DRA in a vacuum. And the mayor hit the comment, you made the comment earlier, which I thought was very astute. We're dealing with this issue right now. There are a multiple amount of issues the county and the city work great on. I've worked with them for 9 years. There's tremendous cooperation between the staffs of the city and the county, and the two commissions have never worked better together. There is an unprecedented event in this community, and the city and the county are all confronted with it. And in my discussions, I sit with the administration and Mr. Hammond and Mr. Yeager and each of the commissioners, it centers each time how does the county help the city? And I can speak to that. They told me I could come. I mean, that's my observation as the attorney. How can we help the city on this particular issue? I can stand here and we can talk for hours about the multiple projects and the many millions of dollars that the county is seeking to try to provide the city of Port St. Joe, because we're all in this together, of how they're going to come out of this event. Even before October 10th, it was always how can the county help the city on funding issues? This DRA issue is one of those issues. They told me I could come speak to it today. There are many issues where the county is seeking to provide millions of dollars in assistance and aid to the city of Port St. Joe, just like they are the city of Wheatley Edgecombe. This particular issue, each of the commissioners have expressed and analyzed the issue. They have expressed to the administrator. The administrator has instructed us as staff to prepare this interlocal, and the county commission has voted unanimously to ask the city that they would sunset this DRA, not abolish it. After 30 years, they viewed it as a success. It has accomplished its goals under the statute, and they've asked to have it sunsetted so there wouldn't be a dispute between the county and the city that could be legal interpretations or legal challenges that we've talked about in workshops, we've talked about in public meetings. The county has come up with a proposal. The city has an opportunity to either accept it, reject it, amend it, whatever you choose. But again, I emphasize looking at it in terms of a vacuum. The county commissioners in these individual meetings have said, how can we help the city on all these different projects? What this county commission individually have said, what would we like to ask the city to cooperate and work with us on this particular issue? So the roles have been reversed on this particular issue, not looking at it in terms of a vacuum on just the DRA. We're talking about the 15 to 20 projects that we all talked on. You touched on some of them, be it roads, CDBGs, community disaster loans. How is the county going to move forward with the city for the next 5 to 10 years? In this particular issue, looking at it in a vacuum, you look at the numbers, the county commissioners have looked at it and said, yes, this is the obligation. If they don't sunset over the next 30 years, this is the projected growth, this is the money that will come to the city, this is the box in the reserve account under the statute that they can spend those funds on going forward. And that is it. Each of you commissioners have touched on different pros and cons of it. But in the statute, that is the funds on which you can expend those funds every year when it comes in. The alternative approach is to continue to look at all the myriad of projects the county and city are working on. How can the county help you with those? How can they provide funding for those projects, but not box them in under the statute like a reserve account that you can only spend on that particular issues. So the zone is defined. It was defined in 1990. The money has gone into that zone over the last 30 years. It talks about slum and blight in the statute. The county commissioners have expressed that they feel as though it's been a successful program. The CRA has done a fantastic job. It has built up that zone, and each of the county commissioners now want to move the focus and hope that the city looks at the funds and they can address all the issues throughout the county, your infrastructure issues, your water projects, your road projects, your sewer projects, the school, the hospital, all the things that we all work on together every day, they're asking you all to take a global view and look at the DRA and say, we don't want to pigeonhole the money just for this one thing. The money's going to continue to come to the city. You're going to have unprecedented opportunity to receive funds from both federal and state levels from the storm. You can apply them to whatever the city chooses, just like the county's going to choose to do. But they are asking, through the unanimous support of that interlocal, to not pigeonhole the money, to take what they've offered and continue to cooperate on all the other projects. So I'm asking, and I've been authorized the administrator to come and say, if you look at it in a vacuum and look at the numbers that are presented, I understand that comments are being made by the commissioners. What I'm asking you all to do is look at it from a county commissioner's perspective, which they all voted unanimously to support, is to look at all the support and cooperation that's going on between the two of them. Not pigeonhole the money to be spent on one thing. If you wish to spend $500,000 in that zone in the future, you as a commissioner are certainly entitled under the law to do that. They're asking you to sunset the one DRA, continue the other in North Point St. Joe, take this interlocal agreement, run forward with it, and continue to cooperate with them on all the other millions of dollars that the county and the city are trying to cooperate to improve the community. So I could elaborate, we could talk for hours and hours, and I could start listing all the projects that I've been working with the county and the city on for the last 9 years. I know you don't want to hear them, I don't want to bore you with them, but I just wanted to convey it on behalf of the administrator.
Thank you, sir.
So what I'm hearing is that by cooperating with this interlocal agreement, that the big picture is that we would actually see more monies coming in than if we had the encumbered monies that could only be spent in that one area, that they would continue to assist. Is that how I heard it properly?
Commissioner, that's my understanding for every conversation, and they're looking at all the different projects, and again, that is accurate representation of the meetings that I've sat in with the administrator and each of the commissioners.
Thank you.
Well, I heard you just say that now that we have this proposal, that the city has the ability to amend it. So, I mean, like I said, it's a proposal. It's not a interlocal agreement unless all the parties sign off on it. I think we would be crazy to take the first offer, which we have before us, which really we don't, because it has to be amended. We've already identified 2 areas, if not 3, that have to be changed. And as we just heard from the public, we don't even have the changes on paper. We have to remind ourselves, we have 18 months before the current DRA sunsets. So hopefully y'all are not considering a vote at this time. I guess I need some clarification. In my mind, I think we're discussing it. Surely we are in agreement that there's other people that need to be informed of the possibility of this agreement or proposal, and then hear from them. We've already learned things in the last hour, or I have, that I had no idea about. So I'm hoping that we're not considering voting on this today.
Commissioner, the DRA does sunset this year, but the TIF funds are collected in arrears, so we'll be able to spend the 2019 collections in '20. So technically, we would still continue the DRA as normal through 2020.
Yeah, I understand that part. And I did notice that they actually left out a payment for the first year if you did go to this. That would be an area that I wanted to negotiate.
We were paid 2018. 2019 payment will come in December of this year.
Yeah, and then if you look, they talk about jumping to the year 2021. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not at all comfortable with signing off on something that was, first proposed without having the city's ability to negotiate the specifics of the proposal. I think we should I'd like to hear from Bill Kennedy as far as what has the CRA accomplished, and do you feel like we've done everything that we needed to do, or do we have future plans? I know that every time we meet as a committee, we're talking about future plans for both Reed Avenue and MLK. So, Bill, if you don't mind, would you speak on behalf of that group as to, are there plans in the future to do more work? I know the Port Theater comes up quite often.
Absolutely.
To answer your question, we can always, I mean, we're in the process of amending our plan for the extension, and that hasn't been completed yet. There's, to me, in my opinion, there's plenty of work to be done downtown in both sections for the future, especially since the Hurricane Michael hit us back in October. First, I'd like to add to this also, before I forget to mention this, is I keep hearing that figure of 175 for next year. If the DRA or DRA is still in existence next year, it should be based on the exact numbers based on TIF funds, and not just a flat, whatever. We're still in existence next year, so it should be based on the statute. I would think it'd be whatever number's gonna be based on the,
Yeah, it could possibly be lower.
Well, and
it
I
could be
did,
lower, that's exactly right. It needs to be the real numbers.
Bill, I did ask that question of the county administrator, and he said, I don't think there's any up wiggle, but if it's lower, this is the amount they're agreeing to. And he anticipates the collection to be lower next year, which
Right.
more than likely, at the first year or two, it's gonna be lower.
Yeah. And based on millages, you know.
Right.
Exactly. But, yeah, of course we can, there's a lot more improvements to be made. You know, I'm an employee of the PSGRA board. And if you guys decide to sunset the PSGRA next year, that's what will happen. But, you know, we can make us a 30-year plan or a 19-month plan. So that's up to you guys.
Yeah, Bill, you and I spoke earlier this morning, and one thing I told you, we've got 2 years left, roughly 2 years. And even after that, I don't see you going away. There's gonna be a lot of stuff to do. I mean, tons of grant money coming in. So, I mean, I see your help being needed in the downtown area.
Right.
And I see money being spent in the downtown area, way more than what we're talking about here.
It's completely up to you guys and the direction you want to head. I mean, you know.
And
I'll answer any questions you might have, but.
Same way.
Bill, I do have one question for you, Bill.
Okay.
The timeframe on the extension, when are we officially sunset? When do we have to have the blessing that, yes, we're extended?
I don't think there's an actual date to that. It certainly has to be completed prior to the sunset.
Okay.
There's the city planner I've been in contact with. You know, he's got to review all these documents and go through all that information. And I'm in draft phase right now, and kind of held off the last few days because it's a lot of work. It's a comprehensive document.
Do we sunset on a calendar year or a fiscal year? Does it end in October? Or does it
Fiscal,
end
September of 2020.
September 2020 it ends.
Any more questions? Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen, what we want to do now?
We got somebody in the audience. with their
Come
hand
on up.
Craig Johnson, 128 Heritage Lane, Port St. Joe, Florida. I've heard some comments about trusting the county commission. I applaud your efforts, but if you'll remember, and Mr. Bezette can lead to this because he was on the original group, some 10 to 15 years, the PSJRC, or whatever it's called, was in force, and we never received a dime from the county. You know, if this interlocal agreement passes, let's get all that money back for the first 10 or 15 years that they never gave us the money we were due. Now, it may not have been much, it may have been $5,000 a year. I don't know. We would have to do some history. And I also remind you of Mrs. Pelosi in the House of Representatives. She said, pass this health care bill. We hadn't read it yet, but go ahead and pass it. We'll work out the details later. Well, you see what happened to that. It had more landmines in it than the Korean War. I'm telling y'all, take your time. Y'all are saying, well, we gotta pass it today. We've already spent an hour and 10 minutes talking about it, and as far as I'm concerned, only about a third of my questions have been answered. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know about the meeting until yesterday, and I have not read the entire document. But I think all the property owners in the district need a minute or two to let's look at it. What's wrong with postponing this vote until next Tuesday? Give everybody an opportunity to bring up their ideas. Y'all come up with a document that you feel comfortable with your attorney, and then present it back to the county for passing. Why pass something that you have not read the final document? That's all I'm asking you. Use some common sense. Would you personally sign a 30-year note that you have never read? I don't think you would. And this is exactly what you're doing. And I will bring up one more point. We trusted the county when we passed the, I'll call it the Windmark crap. We went along with that with a verbal understanding that we were not going to have to put in that dry sewer line. Well, guess what? We spent $327,000 putting it in because the county said it's in the document, you'll damn well do it. Their exact words. So gentlemen, watch out for the landmines.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Let's fish and cut bait, gentlemen. Let's do what we're gonna do. The man just said we've been here for over an hour talking. Let's make a decision on what we wanna do.
I guess the question that I have, Mayor, is if we workshop this, what are we workshopping? Are we workshopping the question of let it sunset or not? Are we workshopping the interlocal agreement itself? What is the purpose that you see?
I am happy with the interlocal agreement as long as the changes we said were pertinent to those being made. I'm ready to accept it.
So you don't want to counter with any increase in the amounts?
I'm ready to accept this interlocal agreement with the changes we want in, period. I mean, I don't know what everybody else wants to do, that's just what I want to do.
I want the opportunity to allow the people that vote in the city of Port St. Joe and the business owners that are affected by this decision to have an opportunity to voice their opinion. That's all I'm asking. And while they're meeting, we can talk about not only changes in the language, but the terms. We can talk about the time frame. We can talk about the amount that we ask for. Right now, it's all one-sided. It's 100% one-sided, created by the county and Commissioner Ashbrook. We haven't even allowed the committee that would be abolished to speak, and I'm a part of that committee. That's ridiculous.
I think if we workshop it, I think I'm gonna feel the same way as I do today.
Wouldn't change my mind.
No, but you
One
may
other
change
person.
the mind, or at least the people have the opportunity to speak. If you're giving them the argument to say, you never heard from me, and they're going to make that voice very loud in the very near future, is what I think is gonna happen. If anytime you tell the voting public you don't wanna hear from them, you're gonna hear from them.
That's
Yes,
not
sir.
what we're doing.
That's
That's
what we're
exactly
doing.
what's going on.
No, that's what you think what's going on.
Exactly, I do
You're the only
believe.
one on the board that's making a statement like that.
Absolutely.
Only one. So
I
all
agree.
of us are crazy.
I didn't
All right,
say
yes, sir,
you
go ahead.
Jeff Anderson, 2501 resident on Constitution, also a business owner on 308. David, I think you should second Mr. Hoffman's and table this and let us listen to what you guys have on the agenda. I knew nothing about it, so I'd like to hear more before you vote on it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I'll just respond to what he just said, and I am not opposed to workshopping this issue, I'm leaning towards accepting this interlocal agreement. My biggest question is, how do we leverage the money? What are we going to spend the money on? That's something that I think needs to be workshopped. I'm comfortable with this agreement. I don't know if Attorney Novak can speak to the point of does he believe that his board has any wiggle room in the amounts at all? I tend to believe not. I mean, I've been back and forth with with county staff, and this has gone from, 600,000 now up to 1.4, and it's just gone back and forth, back and forth. I tried to bring the best deal that I possibly could to the DRA. The DRA was given a verbal offer, and it's now been presented to the board as Gulf County and the city of Port St. Joe, not the DRA board. Like I said, I'm not opposed to workshopping this issue.
Well, then you should second the motion if you want to have a workshop.
For the purpose of deciding how to spend it.
So is that a second to the motion or not?
The motion's not on the table.
Let's get a motion on the table, somebody.
You have somebody else to speak?
You have someone else?
Come on up.
My name is Lynn Marshall. I'm 1206 Monument Avenue. I also own 4 businesses on Reed Avenue. And I've been hearing about this just because I work with Mr. Ashbrook, and I understand Brett works for the county. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But I don't understand that at all. And Eric, I get that Martin Luther King in that area, we need to spread the money out. I understand that. I'm over there all the time. I have kids that I've outraised that live over there. I see that. But I have businesses downtown that I don't understand how this can't even be discussed. I've been hearing about this for a few days. I never even thought this was an agreement. I thought this was just something that y'all can discuss to have a workshop about. I'm very confused by this. I run a business downtown. I have 4 businesses downtown. If y'all could just, I'm sensible. I'm friends with y'all. I mean, I'm sensible. I'm not trying to tell y'all you're crazy. I'm not going to do that. But just think about the people that we do have businesses downtown. And let us at least explain it. We may say, you know what, you're right. This is correct. But give us a chance and an opportunity to know what it's about before coming here and just agreeing to that. A workshop on how to spend the money that we've already got. Bill Kennedy's done a great job with what he's done. I mean, a great job. I can't say enough about how helpful he's been if I need anything, and not by giving me money or anything, but just questions about downtown or what's going on. Just give us an opportunity to listen to it, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. McMahon?
I think it's interesting that we've had 6 people come to the podium. And all 6 people, and there's not a lot of people in the audience, but 6 people representing businesses have all come and asked for one thing: more time. More time to discuss this and not rush it through. 6 people, not a single person has come and said, no, let's rush this through. I mean, if that don't speak volumes to what the actual community of Port St. Joe is asking us to do, I don't know what else they would have to do other than bring 100 people in here, like we've seen before. I don't know.
I'm fine with workshopping it after, on how we're gonna spend the money. I'm in agreements with you, Commissioner Ashbrook.
Yeah. I am too.
You want to make the motion, Scott, or should I?
I will reintroduce the motion I made earlier, and that's to table this entire offer until the public has the ability and the time to speak. My motion is not to accept this and then only amend little bits and pieces. It is to have a workshop on the proposal in front of us. And we have the ability during that workshop to make any changes we see fit or to reject this offer entirely.
Can we set a date? When do you want to do it?
I can meet tomorrow. So, when, we can work with city staff on a date.
Well, we've had that from a motion once before, and it didn't get a second.
It did not, it died for the lack of a second.
So you wanna do it again?
Can we do that the next Tuesday, same time? Give everyone a good week to take a look?
That's fine with me.
I'll second the
We need a
motion.
little more time on our end. Some of us are traveling and.
Let's say,
It's also a county meeting next Tuesday, so.
what about the Monday before our next calendar date to meet for the city? We meet 2 weeks.
April the
And the
second.
date is not the issue. We can work the date out, I think, to where it's comfortable with the majority of our business owners and citizens.
Well, the reason I say it is we need staff, our PSJ staff, to continue to work forward on the extension. And
Oh, absolutely. They're under direction.
And I don't want him to
now.
waste a month of time doing it if we can avoid it.
No, I'll remind you that not 2 meetings ago, I believe, I brought up the question, were they still moving forward? And the answer was yes. They're currently under I believe it was a 5-0 vote from us to move forward on the 30-year extension. So, and just to be clear, the motion is simple, to allow a workshop and give time for the citizens to speak on and possibly reject this offer.
Second stance.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion on board members? I'm gonna do this by straw vote poll. I'm gonna start with you, Commissioner Hoffman, how you vote?
Well, being that I made the motion, I will vote in support of my motion, yes.
Commissioner Flores? No. Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Point of order. Can he vote on that when it's a county?
Yes, he can. We've already discussed that. Yes, sir, he can. You want me to ask you a question? I don't want to ask it in front of everybody. But if you make me, I will.
No.
What is that?
He knows what it's about. Commissioner Langston?
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Langston, yes. The mayor says no. So it passes 3-2.
Thank you.
We hadn't set a date.
Do we want, Mayor, do we want to set a date at this point?
Yeah, I would like to set one as soon as possible.
It was the day before the next meeting,
That'd be fine with me.
Monday the 4th,
Monday the 4th, what time would the board like to meet?
Noon?
same.
Noon?
Noon on the 4th.
Yes.
What time was you say?
Noon.
A lot of business persons actually work during.
Yeah, that's true.
Can we do that at 5 o'clock? or
Would you
5:01?
consider a 6 o'clock time frame?
On Monday?
What time do you?
On the 4th?
I'll be out of town.
Definitely don't want to have it when one of us will be out of town.
When are you available?
Let's do it that following week.
That'd be after our next meeting.
That's fine.
Can we do it sometime in the week before our next meeting?
That's next week.
Well, remember, the key is to have as many people that can possibly attend the meeting to have the ability to attend and come to the meeting. So I have no problem with meeting the week after our next scheduled commission meeting.
That would be the 12th, is that what you're looking at? Our next scheduled meeting's on the 5th. If you were looking at the following Tuesday, it would be the 12th.
Let's do it, we can do it the 4th.
We do it the 4th?
Yeah.
The 4th? At what time?
6 o'clock.
The 4th at 6 o'clock. Okay, then. That's when we'll do it. All right. Mr. Attorney, you're up next.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if you give me just a moment. Mr. Mayor, before the board is ordinance 552 floodplain management regulations. This is a document which Mr. Anderson, myself, and representatives of DEM have worked extensively with. This document was presented to the PSJRA today. It was received a favorable recommendation to come before this board. This document repeals old language, repeals and/or replaces old language related to floodplain management. Ultimately, through multiple revisions and working with Mr. Anderson and DEM, we've made it the least intrusive as possible, meaning that we've, anywhere we could, we default to Florida building codes. We do not make it more constrictive than the Florida building codes, but ultimately, as it relates to dealing with the federal government, NFIP, and similar items, we're going to have to update our floodplain management regulations. And I would point out that this is not, we currently have floodplain management, but it is outdated and needs to be updated. And just to be as blunt as I can with the board, I don't know that this board has much of an option if we want to participate with the federal government moving forward in these type matters.
And this is, we voted on this twice before.
No, sir, no, sir. No, sir, no, sir. We've dealt with other ancillary issues, okay? This is floodplain management, the entire ordinance is a big ordinance.
Gotcha.
We've dealt with 2 foot above BFE, we've dealt with the preliminary maps, but this is the entire package put together. And ultimately, what I will be asking for the board today would be a motion for the first reading, to approve the first reading and advertising. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Anderson.
I think you covered it. We've worked as hard as we could to reduce it, to the impact to the community, but we are going to make these upgrades to it.
And this does include 1 board foot, not the 2 mandatory, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Motion for first reading.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Ashbrook.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Hopper. Any further discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 5-0.
Ordinance number 552, an ordinance by the Board of City Commissioners of the City of Port St. Joe to repeal and reserve Code of Ordinance Chapter 36, Flood Prevention and Control, Ordinance 336, to amend LDR 1.03 definitions, to amend LDR 1.06, specific intent relating to various subject areas of the code, to repeal LDR section 4.17 through 4.22, to adopt new LDR sections 4.17 through 4.13, to adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a floodplain administrator, to adopt procedures and criteria for development in flood hazard areas, and for other purposes, providing for applicability, severability, and an effective date.
All right.
And just so we're clear, with the motion for first reading also entail an allowance for advertising per statute.
That was implied.
Okay.
All right. Okay. That it?
That's all I have at this time, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Jim?
Yes, sir, Mayor. We will get it advertised, so we're looking for adoption on 3/19 is when it'll be back to the board. The first item on old business we have is the CDB grant application services. This is the next phase of the wastewater improvements in the North Port St. Joe area. Specifically, I believe it's Avenue C and Hodrick, I believe, is the.
Avenue C and D. D between Martin Luther King and the north end of the road, east end of the road, and half of that length for Avenue C. From Battles over.
Battles, that's correct.
Actually, one of them ends at North Park, the other one ends at North Garrison. When we started this process, December 2017, it was with the understanding of doing a traditional grant application. And as we worked the numbers out last summer, we made several iterations on service area and trying to maximize the score as much as possible with the demographics we were faced with. We elected to take admin out of the thing so that the only score was the estimate of construction and the $25,000 that was in there for purposes during construction from the engineer. It occurred to me as I was working through the site visit with the CDBG administrator, we were initially not awarded. We were off the list and pretty well below it. The governor had said, work with these communities if you can that were affected by the storms, and see what you can do. And so they have a fund, unexpended funds that come back to them each year. And so they applied those, and we just barely made that threshold. In fairness to the other communities, we aren't allowed to amend our application, so we couldn't put the 50 back and they rescore us. So as it stood, we were funded, but we're stuck without an agreement to do the administration. So I basically changed this and changed some of the leading language so it's not reflecting the grant that we had that had admin included in it. So we're asking that the 50 would come from the city's funds. However,
I've read through all this, and I think all of us have. We know the project. I want to know what staff recommendation is, because, I mean, we're $650,000 into it. We take it or leave it, and you're asking for 50, so I want to direct it to Jim and see what.
Yes, sir. Staff recommendation would be to move forward on the project. We were very lucky to get this money. Due to the storm, I think we got awarded this money on there. They've been very generous to us. Yes, it's $50,000. I believe if you look at the proposal for the administration of the grant, we'll have 10 or 15% we'll have during this budget cycle, but a proportion of this is going to be in the next budget cycle before we actually start the project. So I would advise the board to, recommendation is to pass this or approve it, and to budget for next year for the remaining portion of $50,000.
I'm gonna make a motion to move forward with this. This is a CDBG project for Northport St. Joe Sewer. For administrative fees of $50,000.
All right, we got a motion from Commissioner Lowry, got a second?
I second.
Second, from Commissioner Langston. Any further discussion?
sir,
Any opposition?
just to say that if it's more comfortable, I can say that we could defer our secondary billing until after the fiscal year, to, start on October 3rd, October 1st.
Okay.
Our first charge of $8,000 would be after we finish the environmental review and have the FONSI completed and the notice of intent to release funds. We do that $8,000 billing, then just defer all the front end, but then usually from then on it's percent of construction. And we can just defer that percent of construction until October 1st.
Everybody understand?
Yep.
All right, any opposition to the motion? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Appreciate it very much.
We appreciate it. It's been long, so we're moving through.
Thank you much.
The next item we have is in reference to the MLK rezoning update. It will be coming before the planning board on March the 12th, and it will be coming before the commission for first consideration on 3/19. We are working on the ad this week. The ad will be submitted to the paper on Friday and be running in the paper next week. The next item we have Hurricane Michael update. FEMA Disaster Recovery Center. I'm not sure if we have anybody here today, but they are still running. The DRC is still running out of the fire department. If anybody has questions or concerns from the general public or from our staff, we can go next door to the fire station and get updates. Question on that. Debris removal deadline. We're still under the verbal of March the 15th, so we're working diligently to get everything we can out to the road, to get everything cleaned up in our town to move forward with debris removal. Any questions on that? Last item, SBA, they are also have a representative in the fire department. If anybody has any concerns or questions, they can go next door and get questions answered at the fire station as well. Anything else on that? Moving on to new business, July 4th fireworks. Last year, we paid $15,450 for the show that we put on last year, July 4th. The TDC chipped in $5,000. That's the understanding this year, $5,000 as well. Put on the same show as last year, there is a little bit of inflation on that. You're looking at about $16,500. We need to decide, is that the show we want to put on this year? Do we want to budget? We didn't budget $16,500, we budgeted $10,000. We got $5,000 coming from the TDC. Is that the appropriate show we want to put on this year? What do we want to do for this year? I need to order the fireworks.
Jim, I know it's important, but I feel like this is something that we should ask the TDC to fully fund this year. Their monies aren't going to be as encumbered as ours right now. Can we ask that question to the TDC if they would fully fund it? Just this one time, please help us.
Okay. All right, I will ask that and we'll bring it back in the next meeting and tell you what the answer is. Okay. The next time we have Clifford Sims Park. Kudos to the guys in Public Works, John and his staff. If anybody's not had a chance, it's been blocked off for the most part, but they have been working through the park and it's looking good. Yes, we still got some work to be done, but we're getting close. We also had him talk to the last meeting about the Fishing Express, trying to get them operational down in the park. I have gave over to our city attorney our current lease agreement. I'll speak for him, I'll let him answer any question you may have on it, but he is working through that on the legal side to see what we can or can't do. I'll let Mr. Albritton go on to.
As it pertains to working with the St. Joe Company, I've reached out with Lisa Walters, General Counsel. Ms. Walters and I have a working relationship going back to when she was with one of the big firms in Panama City. She was out of the office yesterday. And so at this point, I'm waiting for a response. And I'll call, if I hadn't heard from her again, I'll call at the end of this week. I anticipate that we'll make contact this week sometime. It's never been an issue in the past.
Counselor, is the question ingress, egress to the port area there? Because it's blocked
There
off
could be
right
a
now.
number of questions. The ultimate is getting to the goal that the city wants. How we phrase the question, what we can argue about, that depends. But obviously, if the parties can figure out a way to work together to meet the city's goals, that's my objective.
Our goal is to find a parking spot for the boat.
Correct.
Okay.
And how we title it and what the question is, we'll see what that is depending on the stance of the St. Joe Company.
Well, why are we asking the St. Joe Company's attorney if we have permission to access our property on the bulkhead? I think the way that we should approach this is by moving forward with preparing the bulkhead for not only the Fishing Express, but I've actually been approached by 2 other boat owners, captain commercial owners, about a place for them to park, which they'd be backing in, and it's a smaller boat. The new Fishing Express, I don't know that it'll be called that, but is smaller. I don't want to stall things by feeling like the city of St. Joe needs permission from the St. Joe Company to utilize the navigable waterways of the state of Florida. That is already decided years ago in multiple cases, and being the background that I had, I'm pretty versed on it. I think we need to move forward in cleaning up the area at our bulkhead, and then let's see what the St. Joe Corporation has to say to us about our plans on moving forward.
Yeah, I agree with what you say. I just didn't know if it was accessible, if that was a problem.
Yeah, and it's not blocked off. I heard somebody say it's blocked off.
Okay.
It's not blocked off. You can drive a boat in there right now. We're not asking permission to get around their bulkhead or their area, but at the same time, we have, I think we have the ability to move forward with our plans. And I'm not in the posture of asking the St. Joe Corporation permission to do what we plan on doing as a city.
I think the city just don't want to be on the hook in any form or fashion. That's my interpretation of contacting them.
I wasn't planning on asking anybody for anything other than cooperation at this point. I wasn't coming hat in hand.
Yeah.
But for when I'm asked to engage on an issue, if the other side has counsel, I cannot, that's who I have to operate through. So we have an issue, just talk it out with counsel. They have their perspective, we have ours. If we disagree, then we disagree. We'll see what a judge has to say. But if the parties, from my understanding, the parties have a long working relationship, so parties can discuss it and get everything worked out to the mutual benefit of both sides, then that was my goal. I apologize if I had a misinterpretation of what I was supposed to do. If the intent of the city is to do what they want, then there's no point really to reach out to St. Joe. If it's just we're gonna take a posture that we have the right, we're gonna do it, and that's fine. That's a decision that this board can certainly make.
Well, I think we're gonna find out that their attorney, the female attorney that you were speaking of, has already weighed in and told the captain of the Fishing Express that he did not have permission, or the city of St. Joe didn't have permission. So with that tidbit of information, I was thinking, well, we're gonna move forward. And I think you'll do us a fine job in arguing our side of the issue. And I didn't interpret it as if you had asked inappropriately or anything. I'm just saying, let's be clear on, my feeling is at least that we have that right to access our bulkhead inside the marina.
I would certainly put that posture on very strongly for, well, the St. Joe Company.
Appreciate it.
Mayor, one other thing to be thinking about too, currently there's $1,200 a month is what the current fee is. We actually, the money was actually submitted back to us from the St. Joe Company, so we need to be thinking about what's an appropriate fee moving forward if we decide to do this. That's all I have.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
All right, John?
Mayor, real quick, I want to expand a little bit about Clipperton's Park as we were talking about that. Pre-Hurricane Michael, we had released a contract, if you will, for Jason White. Clay and I worked with him on that. The storm hit, everything just sort of dropped. We have uncovered the cap. There was a section that was in question pre-storm. There's more than that now. So I'll bring that up to the point of if we're trying to get vessels in there, we have to circle back to that cap and more than just that one section. So if it's the board's wishes, Clay and I both, or Clay, we can look at that and reapproach Jason White as to the original contract plus what additional money maybe need to be spent to get that cap removed and replaced.
Can this be done through a change order, or does this have to be something that's rebid?
I think it could be change order related, for sure.
It was under your bid.
It was under the
It was,
threshold?
it was. So I just wanted to bring that back to the board's attention. That it's our plan at Public Works to be out of that area by the end of the week and to have what we were doing done. So the next move, if we're talking about vessels, would be to have this work done, through Jason White.
I don't have a problem with that.
So, okay. The next item, Mayor, is surplus property.
Hold on, someone got a hand up?
I had something I didn't know, I had something I want to bring to the commission.
You'll have a chance whenever we get to this, we'll have the citizens speak then, yes, sir.
Sorry, Mayor. Surplus property, there should be a list of items that Public Works currently has that we're requesting to be surplus. And that actually is in conjunction with Chief Herron, his request later in the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken a look at that, I've talked to the chief, didn't know why John got involved.
Trying to help.
But essentially, if I'm wrong, correct me, but it's gonna basically upgrade everyone's vehicles by about a year in the police station, and I think Jim's vehicle as well, or the city hall vehicle as well.
And that was the goal, was to make sure the police department, we have these items, and some of them we've had for quite some time. If there's an ability for us to shift those over and then certainly help the police department, that's what we want to do. With, reducing the amount of money, if any, the city has to spend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of this.
Do we need a vote on this?
It needs to be declared surplus, yes, sir.
Motion to declare the properties on page 31 as surplus.
All right, we got a motion, we got a second.
All right, then
Any further discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries 5-0.
the last item I have, Mayor, I don't believe it's on here, was we opened bids for the 6th and 7th Street drainage project last Friday at 4:05. The apparent low bidder was Core and Main at $19,900 and some change. If it's the board's desire to push forward with the purchase of those materials, so Public Works can do the install, we need a motion from the board to do such.
What's the number? Under 20,000? Right at-
It's 19,900 and some change, I don't have the exact figure.
That's the alleyway, we have a problem with the backyards
Yes, sir,
flooding.
that's correct.
Yeah, I'll make a motion
That's
that we
awesome.
move forward with that purchase.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second? Second. Any further discussion? I do know what we're talking about. I've been down there with John and looked at it, and I've had a few phone calls from some of the homeowners, and we do need to do whatever we can do on our part to ratify their problem. So, any opposition to the motion? Motion carries 5-0.
That's all I have, sir.
All right. Larry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one thing. Work is scheduled to begin next Tuesday, the 26th, for the new PLC control system upgrade. This is the replacement for the main control system of the plant, what we call the brain of the plant. And I've been told by the technicians doing the install, we should be able to do this without any interruption in our service. And we are hoping for a smooth transition, but I'm just letting you know ahead of time what we're doing. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Any questions from anybody for Larry? How about the wastewater plant, Jim? You got anything?
Mayor, what we have today is Mike and Kevin are actually with FEMA today. They're doing a site visit at the wastewater treatment plants that are doing damage assessment there today. Wastewater treatment plant Friday, they did start the work on the biological dredging, so that did begin on Friday.
All right, thank you. All right, engineer.
Yes, sir. Very briefly. The Langston Drive sidewalk, the start date is March 4th, 2 weeks from yesterday. That's what we're shooting for on that. Should be a pretty quick project once it starts. Your 2019 SCOP grant, so every year state set aside, they set aside about $9 million for cities, and City of St. Joe is one of those qualified cities to apply for. Last year, we applied for First Street. It was not funded. You don't get funded in this program every year because of the small dollar amounts available, but it is the grant program that it has done one phase of Garrison, is going to do the second phase of Garrison. So at some point, either today or you can do it in 2 weeks, we need some direction from you on which road you want to apply for. Do you want to do First Street again? I think it's certainly a good project.
Does it have to be paving?
Yes, it needs to, it needs to be roadway related, whether that's safety improvement, some kind, but it needs to be paving, to qualify. So I don't need that today, but they're due on March 22nd. If you want to wait 2 weeks and decide on whichever road, that's fine. We'll have time to get it.
But what about speed bumps?
I can't vote for them. I don't know. We've never applied for that, so I don't know.
Commissioner
Chief said he
Langston,
didn't recommend them.
Huh?
Chief said he didn't recommend them.
The tear up the concrete in the parking lot, they're okay.
pavement surfaces.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because they pavement surface is what they look at more than anything else, so that's what they're gonna look at. They go and look at all the small communities, they're gonna go look at the pavement on there. The worst pavement usually gets qualified, they look if it goes by a school, the nursing home, those type of things. And is it going to be entrance or an exit or an accessory road to a major highway? Those kind of things.
Thank you. The park work, we're still working on, and we'll wrap that up in the next few weeks. The trail lighting grant, which is that RTP grant, that bioscope of work was sent back to the state, and they've requested some additional information, so we're working still through that process. And then road paving, they are hoping to start today on 8th Street. The milling machine they're using for that was out in the stump pool this morning working, and as soon as it finishes there, it's coming into town. So they may very well be over there now, but 8th Street is starting. And that was all I had for you.
Well, I'll just say I'm glad that Langston Drive is about to be done, the sidewalks. We started this on more about 6 years ago. I initiated it. I set up a committee to do a study, and we're finally gonna get them done. Thank God. All right, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Gentlemen, for your consideration on today's agenda, surplus property purchase of a vehicle. We have 5 old police department patrol cars. I think you have a list of them in your agenda with the mileage, year, that sort of thing. I am asking for permission for you to declare 5 police cars and 1 code enforcement car, it's a 2000 Explorer, surplus property. And I'm not asking for you to allow me to trade those. I'm also asking to take forfeiture funds from our police department forfeiture account to put with those cars to trade in order to upgrade a used vehicle for me. My vehicle will go to City Hall for them to use, and the car they're currently using, which used to be a police department car, will go to the code enforcement officer for him to use. So as someone mentioned earlier, it will be an upgrade for everyone. And that's all I have on the agenda.
Well, we need a motion to do that. Have a motion, have a second. Second, Mr. Lowry. Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. We covered everything with the other vehicles, right? That's all I have, unless any of you have questions for me.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. City Clerk.
I don't have anything, sir.
All right, we'll go back up to code enforcement. I'm sure everybody's got their report from Mr. Ritchie, and continue to go around town checking on things, especially since the hurricane's been here. You've been busy. All right, citizens to be heard. Come on up, sir. Just write your name down and then state it for us, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Commission, and staff. My name is James Anthony. My home was destroyed during Hurricane Michael. That's my wife back there, Renee. And I come before you today. I want to talk about humbly request a variance to the city ordinance in order to place a home on my property. My house was completely destroyed due to the storm. I know I'm not the only family that home has been destroyed. But me and my wife, we were both lost our jobs. I worked at Bay Medical for 4.5, almost 5 years. I was a phlebotomist medical technician. They laid off me and myself and about 800 people. My wife lost her job. She worked at the Port Inn. I purchased a manufactured home. The home was about, total price about $80,000. To put on my property, which I own. Didn't know that was not allowed. I'd already purchased it. The home, I was told that only a modular home could be placed there. Did not know that, and the difference between the manufactured home and the modular home is how it's secured to the foundation. The cheapest modular home I've looked at is like $117,000. Right now, my wife and I can't afford it. Like I said, I lost my job, they laid us off. So I was looking, request a variance to the city ordinance, allow me to put the home there. I contacted people who make the home and everything, and I have a true testament. One of the homes that was made by the same company, Live Oaks, made this home in Mexico Beach, and it's still standing through the storm. Live Oaks is making my home, and I have a brochure showing that how the home is made, constructed with a steel frame to withstand hurricanes. I have letters from my neighbors who said they don't have a problem with me putting it there. I have pictures of how my home will look when it's placed there, if you all want to take a look at it. How my home is going to look. My wife and I, we've been in this community for a while. I lived on that property about over 20 years.
What is the address of the property?
319 Avenue A. If anybody seen it, went down that street, saw that big tree that was laying on the house, that was my house. The roof was about 20 feet high. But we just requested a variance to be able to put my manufactured home there. That's what it's gonna look like.
Sir, have you gone before the PDRB board? Have you been turned down by them? Is that why you're asking?
Planning board.
The planning board? Have you gone to the planning board?
Yes, I was told that, modular home had to be put there. I was told I couldn't put that home there. And I was trying to see why.
So Jim, help me clarify. We just went through this with a house on Garrison, and we determined through our LDR that a mobile home could not be placed in that location, but a modular could. What is the difference between what he's presenting and a modular? Because the code only says mobile homes are not.
Correct. Right now by your current code, yes, you are correct. We went through a similar situation a few years back. Section 3.03 of the Land Development Regulations, it talks about mobile and modular. So paragraph 15 says the east half of block 1020 and the west half of block 1021 all having frontage on Harbor Street. Single-family sectional or modular homes shall be allowed so long as they meet any and all state and federal regulations applicable thereto, and those state and federal regulations are incorporated herein by reference. That is the only section in town that is listed truly for a mobile home.
Right.
A modular home, most of those have what's called a HUD data plate. I mean, we went through this.
It's on the electrical box.
Yes, sir. Those are generally there, and you have passed a separate ordinance on there's regulations on those. But your code,
That's another thing, everything's built.
but by your current code right here, it does not allow for a mobile home except for within a 2 blocks radius.
But from what I'm hearing, it's not a mobile home.
It's a manufactured home.
So a manufactured home to me would be acceptable by our code. I just want to make sure that it has, and the way that the state statute reads, it says something about you have to have the sticker that's from the state that says it's a manufactured home.
Yes, sir.
Any other, it would be considered a mobile home. And the great part about this for you is the state does not allow us to discriminate between stick-built and modular. We are required by law to treat them the same. And what we had done in the past to try to get, to kind of tweak our ordinance was to make from the roof line all the way down to the ground the same covering. And that had to apply to all structures. So I'm wondering why it's been denied, is my question.
Well, it's not been the PDRB. The first question is, have you been to the building department to show them whether it's not a mobile home, whether that actually meets the requirements of the modular?
Yeah, well, I talked to him, because first of all, he told me initially before I bought it, had to be a zone 3. which that is. So when I presented everything to him, because I was telling him I'm putting, hadn't put the pipe down there, or my pipe down for my driveway. And we brought this up, and I told her, I said, it's not a trailer, it's a manufactured home. And she was saying what you were saying about the code, and I was like, but the only difference is with a modular home is the concrete slab. But my home will be secured. And like I said, I showed this picture of the home that was, same company that's making mine, Mexico Beach, withstood the hurricane, it's still standing. But mine will look like that.
Well, the first thing when I talked to Joe Paul, he indicated that it was not a modular home that was going to meet the requirement of the Florida Building Code.
And that may be, if it's a modular home, you still have to meet the rest of the codes as far as foundation goes. We did that as well, the stack block versus, stem walls and all. So I don't think that it's being denied because of the type of home it is. It's probably the structure it's going to be sitting on. Does that sound more right?
What I would suggest, Mr. Anthony, is get the specs on the actual building itself, go down to the building department, let them actually look at the specs on the house itself to make sure that it does or does not meet its requirements. That would be the first thing I would do on there.
So what exactly is a apartment? What does it have to have?
That would be a question for the building department. There's all kind of different specs on there. You have to meet all kind of different wind loads and different things on there. I'm not the building inspector on there, but I would advise that you go down and see the Kelly down the building department and make sure.
But they've already told you.
Yeah, they were saying, because their understanding is they thinking trailer. They're thinking, I kept trying to explain to them, it's not a trailer.
They need to just give you the information.
Right.
Because I went down there before and it kind of peed me off about how they're handling the business down there. They just need to give you the information and let you go and search and see if the information that you have is consistent with what you need to put your home there. And I don't want to hear nothing about it's not this, it's not that. Give him the information that he needs so he can go see, and that's it. And once you get your information, you come back to him, and if it's not right, then you can go back and see what you need to do to get done what you need to get done. So we need to, the building department needs to just give people the information that they need and let them go and get what they can get and come back so they can go ahead and move on with what's going on. I mean, it's a lot going on in our community, and people get frustrated. But you telling them something, they have to go get this, come back, go get this, come back. Let them know what they need before they leave the building so they can have their paperwork together and get things done, get things moving. And I understand what you're saying, Mr. Anthony.
Yeah, I would do two things. I would first call your home builder and say, is this going to have the state seal on the electrical panel? Is this a certified modular home? Once you have that information, you go to the building department, you say, I have a modular home that has the state sticker on it that has been inspected by the state, then go from there, because it sounds like to me it might be a foundation issue that they're giving trouble about, how it's going to to be put on the ground.
Well, and it sounded like he went back to the building department.
They should have told him that.
Yeah, they should.
They should have told me.
All they told him was he needed his own.
Yeah, that's what I told them. I went and purchased it, that's what I don't get. They told me that and I purchased it. And then when I went to talk to them, and they were like, oh, I keep saying it's not a trailer. You're looking at the mine as a trailer. If you look at that, it doesn't look like a trailer.
Mr. Anthony, if I can get your phone number, what I'll do is
Now he looks like
Okay.
let's do that. That way he can ask you, that way he'll know exactly what you can do.
Right in front.
I'll have Mr. Krill give him a call, and that way they can talk.
I mean, if you look at this doesn't look like a trailer. It doesn't look like a trailer. But
I think like Mr. Ashbrook was saying, it's probably got something to do with the foundation, but you should have been told that. You should have been told that.
yeah, because my wife and I, we've already purchased it. Right. I've already purchased it, and this is the only thing that's holding me up. I purchased it. It's a 2019 brand new. That they're constructing for me right now. Well, they were until this now. I tell them to hold up because I don't know if I'm going to get it. But we've already paid for it. And I don't get it. People need somewhere to live, and you tell me because of that. And then you got this one house that withstood a Category 5 storm, and now you're telling me I can't put something on my own property. I just don't get that. So, my neighbors don't have a problem with it. I got letters from them. They stated. So I just don't get why. I don't get the ordinance. I just don't. You tell people they can't put, especially when they can't afford a new home. I mean, I'm working now. I'm not working. I'm working through the FEMA program at the county, but I lost my job, I lost maybe $6 an hour compared to what I'm paying in pay. And my wife's not working right now. And this trailer cost me roughly a little over $80,000. Now you're trying to tell me I got to upgrade to like something like $37,000 more dollars, which I can't afford right now. So, whoever's in charge, they need to take another look at it, because it's not right.
Mr. Anthony, can I get the phone number? I think you wrote it on the piece of paper.
I'm sorry.
You can write it right out front. Yeah, I'll have to give you a call.
How soon?
I'll call him as soon as we get out of the meeting.
Can I go talk to him? After you call him, I want to talk to him face to face.
Sure. I can give you a call several times.
And believe me, sir, we'll do everything we can to help you out.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Anyone else? Come on up.
One update, I'm sorry. As soon as I sat down, I got a text message. The issue with the milling machine, they're not gonna start 8th Street today. I'll let you know as soon as I have a date, but that was literally as I said.
Sounds good. All right.
Frank Seifert. I understand that the county, at the meeting last week, brought up the fact that they were going to give the city $500,000 to help purchase our system, but it couldn't be used for anything else. But I think what they want to do is try to figure out a way for the city to still get the money. And what I'm saying, I don't know a lot of what I'm saying.
Jim can probably help with that, because I've heard a little bit of that conversation. I know you had a conversation with Michael about that. So
Yes.
you want to go into that a little bit?
To my understanding, the county did meet on that, Mr. Seifert, on there, and this board had actually voted at the previous meeting, 3-2, to try to use that money for rehab of a lift station. Indication order does not apply for that, but it would apply for the purchase of a lift station such as yourselves out there for that, for Barefoot, or for Beaches Sewer. If a lift station was built, if it was just a matter of the city accepting the sewer on there, we already have the customers for water. That's just a matter of us setting up the billing cycle. We charge $7.38 per 1,000 gallons. If there's a lift station built on there, that would be just us setting that up with an agreement as far as us accepting those as customers. Now, if you retained ownership on that, I guess that would be between you and the Public Service Commission as to what you would charge for some maintenance and upkeep on that. But that was the discussion we had. Mr. Hammond was that, yes, we would be amenable to accepting that on there. At staff, we've still come to our board. This will be a board decision on this thing. But staff would not have a problem accepting that on there. And then we would not have any ownership of the lift stations or infrastructure in there. We're just accepting the sewer.
Do we need to, do they need to bring it up for a vote to discuss it, or?
Absolutely, it would be, yes.
I'm kind of in the dark here.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be some detail behind it brought to the table as far as the numbers.
Yeah, this was just discussion that I had with Mr. Hammond yesterday, following up from the meeting last week on there. I guess the first question, is this something you would be interested in, would be the first thing, since you're the owner of the.
Well, I mean, we're always interested in talking to anybody about anything, you know?
Well, the county's concern was the lagoon. They want to do everything in their power to get rid of that lagoon. And so that would make that land, over the course of 3 years, a developable piece of property, which would help us right now as well in the county.
Yeah. But I mean, sure, we'd like to discuss it.
So what would that, put a motion in?
Do we need a workshop on it?
Yes, sir, that would be my recommendation, because there's some interesting parts of this thing. We're gonna need, Mr. Smallwood to tell us, what kind of lift station would be required over there. We need to make sure that the county is amenable to using that money to buy that lift station. And then, Mr. Seifert would have to allow us to build those customers out there. So from there, the way I envision this thing is we would have a lift station built utilizing that money out there. Mr. Seifert would say, okay, I'm going to be amenable to you building these folks and accepting the sewer. We take that, all we're doing is going and setting it up on our billing system, just like we do with Barefoot Cottages and Barrier Dunes. We bill them for it. We don't have ownership. Ownership and maintenance would still stay with Mr. Seifert. But that's all things that would need to be discussed.
Well, Can I suggest before y'all have a workshop that maybe we get together to figure out more of the details?
I'm fine with y'all just doing that, period, then bring it back.
You and the county and city staff work together and see what you can come up with.
Yeah, let's do that.
That'll work.
That'd be good.
Okay. All right, we'll do that then. We'll try to set something up. We'll have county staff, city staff, your staff, and city engineer, see if we can get to a table and figure out how to make it work. Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Anyone else on the phone? Don't think so. All right, we'll start with you down here. Mr.
Okay,
Langston.
I had a meeting with, a few ladies from the Garden Club, the Wake Center, moving forward with, Port St. Joe Community Garden. That's what we decided the name would be. They're gonna bring a presentation in, so you might as well get ready for it. Get ready for it. They'll bring a presentation in the next, meeting. They're working hard, I tell you. I tell you about some women, but those women know they can work hard. Also, Jim, I got a call from Chester. He wanted to know about the building that's between Miss Minnie Likely and the Washington Gym. I think the PAC wanted to lease it. What was it they wanted?
What you got, Commissioner Langston, yeah, we arranged it one time before. Right now, there's no building, it's a breezeway in between Miss Likely's building and the gym itself on there. And what their PAC is wanted to do is to build them an office in between. So last way we left it was they were going to try to come up with a plan as to how they want to build it. So what I need to do is I will
Just want to get the other paper I gave you by the construction list.
All right, man. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right.
So what I need to do is I need to get with the city attorney, figure out how the description of that is there, but I envision that's going to be some kind of lease agreement, just like you do with all the other facilities, whether it's the WIG or the gym or anything. It's just that you don't have a description of it right now. It's just a breezeway, and then at some point you would need to make sure that you approve the plans for what they want to build. Make sure it's like that.
Okay, he was telling me that in order for them to go ahead and get started, trying to close it in or whatever, they need something in writing from the city. He has something to do today. I guess he hadn't showed up.
He said he's going to try to come and discuss it further today.
Yeah.
I tell you what I'll do is I'll get with Attorney Albritton, and we'll try to get some more information with Chester and have you something for the next meeting.
Okay, I appreciate it, Jim. Other than that, I'll be running for City Commissioner Group 1 again this year, and I'm excited about it.
Right. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
I just have a couple things. I just wanted to follow up on the grant writer RFQ that we decided to go out for. What's the status on the grant writer?
Ms. Pierce sent it to the paper last Friday, so it's set to run in the Star paper and I believe in the Panama City paper this Sunday. So yes, we have to announce that.
So looking at sometime in March to have something for us, okay. Speaking of March, very, very, very busy month politically up in Tallahassee. I will not be here for that March 19th meeting. So I feel like right now today I need to express my support of the North Port St. Joe redevelopment. We got to go forward, guys. We've been doing this for almost 4 years now. I still remember the first time Chester and Danny came to my office and told me about it. I am fully 100% in support, and if we think that it's not going to go that way, please let's delay that for another meeting, because I have loads of good things to say about what that's going to do for the community. But again, I will not be here on the 19th for that meeting. I'm not worried about it. I think that this board has been supportive of the project and should continue to be. And then my final comment is trash transition. What are we going to do, guys, about the difference in contract end dates with Waste Pro to BCC? Vic Williams was here at the last meeting and shook all of our hands and said he'd make this transition go smoothly, but I'm hearing now that it's not the case, that they haven't given a customer list, they're not cooperating whatsoever. So maybe this question is for the attorney on how we can make that happen. Is there anything that they've done wrong that we have maybe said they violated their contract, so the last 3 months we could just switch at the same time, or how do we go about making this transition happen without our customers not getting trash picked up?
Well, obviously I can't control what West Pro does in the future as far as picking up or not picking up. As far as dealing with the contract and the term dates, we're working through some processes to see if we can get that done. The first thing, though, is this board approved BCC, we're in the bid, but we don't have a contract with BCC. Part of that is because of the timing, but we still need to get through that process first to get all the contract language worked out and back before this board. But I think the next step will be to reach out to Waste Pro and determine, check their blood pressure. Again, not necessarily coming from a perspective of hand, but I would like to understand where what their viewpoint is, and then we can go from there.
Sure, I'd just like us to be proactive. I know what's in it for them to do a good job for us those final 3 months. So I just want to make sure that we have a smooth transition, and we need a contract first, you're right. I just want to get an update. Thank you. That's all I have there.
All right, Commissioner Lowry?
I just want to echo that. I mean, we need to put the pedal on, pressure on the pedal. I mean, let's figure it out. If they're not wanting to comply with, what we need, we need to figure something out. That's all I have.
All right, so Commissioner Hoffman?
I only have one item. As you all know, the city has multiple insurance claims for our buildings and our parks and all. Right now, we have tasked Mike LaCour with kind of handling, filing those and looking and dealing with the insurance adjusters. I don't know that he has the actual time, and this isn't coming from Mike, this is just me asking Mike how things were doing, and where the claims are. And the discussion started with the flooring in the Centennial Building. I think that we should be filing a claim to have the flooring replaced. And I asked Mike to call the adjuster back and get them back over there and look at that. But it kind of opened discussion as to, are we doing everything as a city that we should be doing to make sure we get as much off these insurance claims as possible? And I think we need to maybe let city staff look at, is there another person that has more time, or do we need to hire someone and maybe be reimbursed from FEMA? I don't know. I don't know much about insurance and how it works, but I don't think we're doing it properly at this point.
Well, Commissioner, I've asked staff multiple occasions, are we ready for a PA yet? Do we need to get a public adjuster?
Yeah.
And I think once you receive that first offer, the public adjuster is only going to take whatever he can get you above and beyond that. So I think it's maybe if we have a lot of first offers in, then maybe it's the time that it doesn't cost us a dime.
Yeah.
It's, they're going to get us money, we give them a little bit of it. So I would be totally in favor of bringing a public adjuster on board, because they're going to find things, because they want to get paid. They're going to find every little thing they can.
Yeah,
I've asked Jim several times about this, if, in the event that, we need some traction with our adjuster. I serve on a preferred governmental insurance trust board who has our insurance coverage. And if we aren't getting what we need, please let me know. And if they need to, if Ingle Martin needs to give us another adjuster, I mean, I've had an issue with my adjuster at the county level. And I've said, listen, let me know if you need some help, because I don't need things lagging, so, in the event.
Yeah, let me sit down with Mike. Indication what Mike gave me was we had got the initial 500. He was indicated that insurance is going to give us an additional $800 something they had us on the books, and the guys were looking at it. So yeah, that's the first I heard. Mike was indicating to me that he was working good with the adjuster and he was working out the numbers. But let me double check.
And two, I think, we're putting roofs on things. We might be more open to doing a scope of work on some of these buildings and getting somebody in to bid the whole scope, which might help save some time and get the money flowing in faster.
I just think it's kind of our job to approach the city's claims the same that we would with our homeowners policy. And I think Mike's doing a great job, but he's also tasked with running numbers and running budgets and working with department heads.
FEMA.
Yeah, so let's just review where we are on insurance claims and see if we can do a better job.
And our public assistants, whoever I know that bid's coming up, I believe, Monday. So they'll help with that stuff.
Right. That's all I have,
Like,
Mayor.
what, last case scenario is hiring a public
Yeah,
industrial.
yeah.
I mean, because they're gonna take your money. I mean, that's.
They do, but they're good at it.
And this time I have nothing to say, so I need a motion to adjourn.
So